Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are unpacking a truly fascinating brand new discovery from the Riken Center for Brain Science. We're going to look at the invisible, lightning fast neurological calculations your brain makes literally every single time you collaborate with another human being. I mean, have you ever wondered exactly how you figure out what someone else is capable of? Well, researchers just figured out that our brains don't just use one method to predict the behavior of others. We actually use two completely different, distinct systems depending entirely on who we're interacting with. Picture this in your daily life for a second. You're working on a big team project, and a sudden, completely unexpected, difficult problem pops up. You have to decide immediately. Do you tackle this problem yourself, or do you hand it off to your colleague? So, how do you predict if your teammate will actually succeed? It's a super relatable, everyday scenario, right? But the neurological gymnastics your brain has to perform to answer that one simple question are absolutely incredible.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover the teamwork brain puzzle, beginners versus experts, two brain mechanisms, the Riken experiment, and finally, why this matters.
Section 1, the teamwork brain puzzle, how we predict others.
Section 2, beginners versus experts, the physics PhD analogy. For the longest time, scientists believed our ability to understand other people's minds was basically all handled by one specific region at the back of the brain called the TPJ. But simply putting yourself in someone else's shoes, well, that isn't really enough to predict if they'll actually succeed at a complex task. There was a huge missing puzzle piece. So the international research team at Riken hypothesized that we actually predict performance differently based on the skill level of the person in front of us. Let's imagine a scenario to break this down. Say you're a newly minted physics PhD, and two different people walk into your lab. Person number one is a brand new, wide-eyed first-year college freshman, total beginner. Person number two is a veteran physics professor who's been teaching for 30 years, a total expert. As that new PhD, you can very easily predict exactly which physics problems the freshman can and cannot solve. Why? Because you were a freshman once. You know exactly what that level of knowledge feels like. But the veteran professor, it's incredibly hard for you to predict the absolute upper limits of their knowledge, simply because you haven't actually reached that level yourself yet. The tool you use to evaluate that freshman is a newly defined psychological concept called social metacognition. Metacognition is basically your brain's ability to evaluate its own thoughts, kind of like your internal self-awareness. Social metacognition happens when you project your own self-evaluation onto someone else. You take your own mental model, fit it to the beginner, and basically project it outward. You understand their mind because you can mirror it against your own past experiences. But for the veteran professor, you've got to use a completely different strategy, which brings us to heuristics. You see, you literally cannot use social metacognition on the veteran professor. You can't project your mind onto theirs because, well, their knowledge far exceeds yours. So instead, you rely on heuristics. You use past experience, rules of thumb, and their overall statistical reputation to make a solid guess. You assume they're going to succeed simply because, historically speaking, experts usually get the right answer.
Section 3, two brain mechanisms, where this happens in your head. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the researchers discovered these two psychological strategies actually use completely different physical hardware inside your brain. The Riken team found a truly remarkable physical split. When you're evaluating the beginner using social metacognition, a region right in the front of your brain called Area 47 lights up. And get this, prior to this study, Area 47 was not known to be involved in social cognition at all. This is a brand new discovery. But when you evaluate the expert using heuristics, that traditional theory of mind region at the back of the brain, the TPJ we mentioned earlier, takes over completely. So it's literally two different people, two entirely separate neural networks. Section 4, the Riken experiment, testing the dual system theory. Okay, so how did they actually prove this invisible brain activity was happening? Well, to test this theory in real time, the researchers designed what they called a cooperative cognitive task. Put yourself in the shoes of a participant in this experiment for a second. In step 1, you're looking at a screen with 100 tiny dots moving in completely random directions, and you have to guess the overall direction of the movement. It's a really tricky visual puzzle. In step 2, you're told whether your partner for this specific round is a beginner or an expert at this exact dot puzzle. Finally, in step 3, you're given a choice. Do you want to answer the puzzle yourself for a cash reward, or do you want your partner to answer it? You have to predict who has the highest chance of succeeding so you can maximize your payout. While the participants were making these rapid-fire teamwork decisions, the researchers were closely tracking their brain's blood flow using fMRI scans. And the results? They were incredibly clear.
When participants had to compare their own skills to a beginner's, Area 47 absolutely surged with activity. But when they compared themselves to an expert, Area 47 went completely quiet, and the TPJ lit up instead, scaling its activity directly with the difficulty of the problem and the historical probability of getting that reward. But as we know, just observing blood flow isn't really enough to prove cause and effect. So the researchers took it a massive step further. They used a technique called transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS for short. This is a totally safe, non-invasive tool that uses magnetic fields to temporarily suppress or basically turn off specific regions of the brain. They wanted to see exactly what would happen to these participants' teamwork abilities if they temporarily disabled Area 47. And this brilliantly illustrates what they found. When researchers used TMS to suppress Area 47, the participants' ability to predict the expert's performance remained completely, 100% unchanged. Their TPJ was still functioning perfectly, allowing them to use heuristics just like normal. But when they had to evaluate the beginner? With Area 47 suppressed, the participants' ability to predict the beginner's performance severely decreased. It crashed all the way down to the level of pure guessing. Turning off Area 47 specifically destroyed their social metacognition. It's wild. Section 5. Why this matters. From the lab to real life. So, moving out from the fMRI lab and into real life, why is it absolutely crucial that we have two separate brain systems for evaluating our peers? Well, understanding this neurological split opens up some incredible real-world possibilities. First off, it can help us create highly tailored education and training methods. If we know exactly how a teacher's brain models a student's brain, we can completely optimize how information is passed down. Second, over in the business world, it provides a biological framework for team building. It helps us construct highly productive, diverse professional teams by understanding how members intuitively evaluate each other. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, understanding how social metacognition works gives us a brand new avenue for developing support therapies for developmental conditions like autism spectrum disorder, where social communication can be a profound challenge. Interestingly, it also helps explain some of the more complex and frankly quirky aspects of human society, like contrarian behavior. You know, that person who always intentionally chooses the unpopular option or plays the devil's advocate in a group? The researchers suggest that Area 47's ability to deeply monitor and project mental states might be the exact mechanism that allows us to flexibly adopt opposing stances. Basically, we can only be a contrarian if we fully understand the mental state of the consensus we're actively rebelling against. So, the crucial point here is that Area 47 is an evolutionarily new brain region. Compared to other animals, it is highly developed specifically in humans. Our ability to build complex, advanced societies isn't just about being generally smart. It's about this very specific, incredibly powerful hardware in our frontal lobe. It allows us to intricately map our own minds onto the minds of our peers, seamlessly shifting our strategies based on exactly who we're working with. So the next time you're sitting in a meeting or passing off a project to a coworker, take a split second to think about what is actually happening inside your head. Are you firing up your TPJ and relying on their expert reputation? Or are you engaging your Area 47, projecting your own past experiences onto a beginner? How will understanding the incredible dual system teamwork taking place inside your own brain change the way you collaborate today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking those fascinating questions.